What is up, my friends? Welcome to Flippin' Bats, where it is John Smoltz Day. Every single week, the Hall of Famer John Smoltz joins us here on Flippin' Bats, which is just one of my favorite things about this show is that he gets to come on and he does it every single week, and it means so much. And today, we have a lot to talk to him about. We're going to get a good story out of him. As you may or may not know, the Yankees once again hit three homers to start the game, back to back to back homers. They hit four homers in the first inning, back to back to back homers for the second time this year. That's never in history happened. It's just crazy. But what I'm going to ask John is, what is the craziest game that he was ever a part of? He was a part of a million games with some really good teams and some really good players. So I'm excited to talk to him about that. The American League, in his eyes, who is the best team in the American League? And then what is going on with the Baltimore Orioles? I have been pissed at the Orioles over the last couple of weeks for really ruining, in my opinion, ruining this window that they have been in or seemingly started to open for the next decade. Well, they just haven't gone about it right. Going to ask John all about that as well. But uh, thank you for watching Flippin' Bats. Remember, Flippin' Bats is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Bet baseball with us all season long on America's #1 sportsbook. Fun episode today. Hall of Famer John Smoltz set to join us right now. And then right afterwards, my FanDuel best bets for Thursday. We'll talk about those as well. But without further ado, let's get to him now. The Hall of Famer, John Smoltz. All right, I am pumped to welcome in now, as we do every single week, the Hall of Famer from the Atlanta Braves, John Smoltz. John, how are we doing this week?
Doing great. Great weather again. A lot of golf.
I love that. When do you start traveling for the Saturday baseball games?
So it's been a nice schedule so far. I'm home this week for the Dodgers Braves.
Okay.
I'd say May 31st when I go to the Dodgers. It's pretty much every week after that. So it
Okay.
goes every week with the exception of Tahoe weekend and the Hall of Fame. So um, I was looking at this year's schedule, not knowing what the second half is. And obviously, you got a lot of the same teams that
Yeah.
are on the big markets that are having some pretty good years. So it's going to be a fun schedule for me.
At least you start at home with the Braves. Braves are playing better. We knew they would. So that's a nice easy start for you staying there in Atlanta.
Exactly, and it's going to be that you know. Look, the Braves and their schedule and playing the Dodgers in the first month of the season twice already. It's the skies are brighter for the
Yes.
Atlanta Braves now, and they'll get even brighter when Acuna is back in the lineup.
For sure. John, I want to start with a question, a question for you from when you played, because we've now seen twice, including as we're recording yesterday, earlier this week, the New York Yankees hit four homers in the first inning, three homers, first three batters. Again, it's the second time this year that they have hit back to back to back homers to start the game. First time in history that that's ever happened. It's just, and then earlier this week, the four in the first inning. It's crazy. So it made me think as I was preparing to talk to you, what is the craziest game that you've ever been a part of?
Yeah, there's been a lot of them. The craziest one I was ever a part of, and the theme being home runs on Father's Day. In about 3 innings, I gave up 6 home runs to the
This is not
Cincinnati.
where I was expecting you would go with this.
The Cincinnati Reds, and all I could do afterwards was say, "I want to wish everybody a happy Father's Day," because the ball was jumping, and I just gave it up. But I've been a part of back in the old stadium where the Rockies used to play in the football stadium. We were
Yep.
part of a 10-run deficit. I mean, there was crazy. I think Colorado could be the top five for crazy scores, comebacks, homers. But I think the one that I will never forget, because I know it's happened more than once, so it's not the rarest. But the very first pitch of the game that Charlie Lee Brandt, when he was pitching for us, gave up a leadoff home run. I'm like, all right, no big thing, game over. 9 innings, 1-0. Like, to me, that's almost impossible. Like, the very first pitch, you settle it in, you give up a home run, you're like, okay, no big deal. He doesn't give up another run. We don't score. And I'll never forget, like, oh man, pitching's hard. The very first pitch, and you give up a home run. Solo home runs don't beat you. And I know that's happened before. There's been a solo home run, and that's the only run of the game. And I think a pitcher's done that once, where he's the person that hit the home run and then was the benefactor of winning 1-0. So there's the thing of baseball is it'll always surprise you.
Yeah.
The thing about this, though, I believe they did them both at home, right?
No, this one was on the road. This was in Baltimore.
That's what makes it more impressive to me because, doing it at Yankee Stadium, I'm not trying to take anything away from Yankee Stadium, but we all know Yankee Stadium is a nice place to hit. But to do it in Baltimore on the road, that's impressive. And the Yankees are having a special year when you have the two top hitters in baseball in the American League in your lineup when they're leading in batting average. That's a
Yeah.
good thing.
Did you ever give up a homer on the first pitch you threw of a game as a starter? Every time I see that, I think, okay, you as a starting pitcher, you play once every fifth day. In this day and age, oftentimes once every sixth day. You prepare your whole day to pitch. Your whole week is to pitch that day. You get ready, you go through your routine, you throw your bullpen, you come out, first pitch of the game, great homer. And it's just like it has to be such a shot to the ego to prepare all week, and then the first pitch you give up is a homer.
It is. I don't know if this particular game it was the first pitch, but it was the first batter. It was my first postseason game ever.
Oh,
And I had the starting time mixed up in my head. It's the nightmare every pitcher has. I'm sitting
yeah.
on the training room table. I don't have my pants on. I'm getting stretched and I'm just kind of chilling. And that back then they started messing with the starting times, like different times, like 7:18, 7:38, all these
Yep.
different times. And so, of course, that was in 1991. And the trainer answered the phone, says, "Yep, right, yeah, he's here," and then hung up. And he goes, "That was your manager wanting to know where you're at. The game starts in 15 minutes." And I'm panicking. I mean, straight panic. Now, it only took me 10 to 12 minutes to get ready, anyways,
Yeah.
but I'm convinced that the game's going to start when I'm ready,
Yeah.
right? Like that doesn't work. So I go running, I put my pants on, I'm running and kind of jogging down, putting my belt on, trying to get everything. I get to the bullpen, 10 minutes, I'm ready. And my first batter is Orlando Merced. And I can't remember if it's first pitch or second pitch, but he hits a leadoff home run, and the crowd's like, and I'm on, oh my gosh.
Uh,
And I was able to settle in and win that game. But to your point, it's like your mind just, first of
yeah.
all, my mind was in a disarray thinking,
Yeah.
I'm out of my element here. I'm not ready. And I didn't know, I thought I had 20 more minutes. And so can you imagine a manager and a pitching coach? They knew I'd come late anyways. Like if a game started at 7:40, I was in the bullpen at 7:20.
Hmm.
And I was walking to the dugout at 7:35.
Ugh.
So I'd walk out. So I didn't need but 12 minutes of throwing, but still, first postseason game, that was nerve-wracking.
Good Lord, that is crazy. John, I wanna ask you about the American League because we talk a ton about the National League. It's stacked. The National League is loaded. The top 5 to 7 teams. I mean, there's going to be somebody, as you said last week, there's going to be somebody in the National League that doesn't make the playoffs. That's a good baseball team. In
Yeah.
the American League side of things, it feels a little different. There's going to be somebody that probably gets in that might not be the best team in the world. There's not near as many great teams over there. But my question for you is simple. Who, in your mind, is the best team in the American League?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are talking about the way Texas can pitch, but they haven't been hitting recently, and then they exploded for that's the way it goes, right? You play a lot of 2-1, 2-0 games, and your team scores 15. And you're
100%.
like, spread that out a little bit. I think you're right, the balance. I still like the New York Yankees. I think the moves they made when they didn't sign Soto were well suited for that club in the long run. And again, it always is the same theme. Pitching stays healthy, they're going to be really good. So I still give the nod to the Yankees. The Tigers are a very interesting team to watch because of the way they play and the experience they had last year. So I wouldn't discount them. But the thing about the American League is there's going to be a situation close to the trade deadline that is going to pole vault a
Yeah.
team that cherry picks from one of those teams, either in the American League or the National League, that have gone in the wrong direction, that historically becomes that minor league feeding system for these big time teams. That to me, it sounds like oh no, duh, John, but no, this time it's going to be the difference in the American League because the balance is so good.
Yeah, it does feel like, and in particular with the Tigers, with the way their rotation is set up, like if they're that team that at the deadline goes and acquires a big bat that I don't think, as we sit here at the end of April, is available. Maybe somebody becomes available at the trade deadline. The Tigers go get them, add to that lineup. Next thing you know, that rotation currently with basically everybody under a 3 ERA. Reese Olson's a little bit over a 3, but that rotation is looking like certainly the best in the American League, one of the best in the league. You add an offensive piece to the middle of that lineup, then we're really talking with the Tigers. But as we sit right now, to me, I agree. I think it's Yankees, Tigers looking like the best. Nobody wants to face that rotation for the Tigers in a series. I don't think anybody's currently looking at the lineup scared to death of them. Yankees lineup is the best in the American League, but that Tigers pitching is unbelievable.
Yeah, the sneaky team that everyone's going to have to look at is Boston. And Boston has a much better roster, an athletic roster than they've had before.
Yep.
Again, pitching, they signed Crochet and they've got some opportunities to kind of click in. So the rivalry is going to be back, in my opinion, between Boston and New York. Early on, they balanced the scales. They struggled, then they played well, so they're in second place. I think those two, the American League East is going to be fun to watch because, with the exception right now of the Orioles, it seems like the balance is pretty good and teams will hold their own because the Rays are always going to do Rays stuff,
Yep.
especially that's just their DNA. They're a thorn in a lot of team sides and they're going to just be good enough.
John, we talking about best teams in the American League. One that neither of us mentioned is the Baltimore Orioles. And I, over the last couple of weeks, have really, I would say, voiced my frustration about what's been going on in Baltimore. They look bad. You said a couple weeks ago about 30 games starts to tell us who a team is going to be. Well, the Orioles are 11 and 18 as we speak. They look terrible. The window for the Baltimore Orioles was supposed to be open for a decade or more. We were on the cusp of greatness for a long time. It actually felt like we were on the cusp of what the Astros did at the very beginning of that. And then you have Mike Elias in charge in Baltimore, and it's really felt eerily similar. And then all of a sudden you head into a year not as good as last year. You lose an ace of a staff in Corbin Burns. You lose a 40 plus homer guy in Santander. And my question is just like, how did we get here for the Baltimore Orioles? This was supposed to be the start of greatness for a decade.
Well, they haven't ever shown signs that they're willing to spend and to spend to keep players. I thought when they made the trade for Burns, they would be willing to spend to keep them, and they didn't.
Mhm.
So that's the one piece. Of course, offensively, I felt like they could maybe get away with not signing the big bopper, but it hasn't shown that to be the case. They don't have, with their pitching injuries, they don't have the depth in their pitching rotation to sustain the core players that you have come together to know, like similar to Houston, where this could be one of those scenarios. They signed Charlie Morton and it hasn't worked so far, but they've got to find some pitching. They've got their big closer back, but the starters they had, and they just have not sustained consistency and or health. And in that ballpark, making the changes they made to help their pitching by moving the wall back and primarily a left-handed power hitting team, they can't rely on scoring enough runs to win games. So to have a sustained run and to be in a position like the Astros were and the Braves were, what was the common theme? Pitching.
Mhm.
They had a solid pitching rotation to accompany all those good young position players that you knew you were going to have for a while. And that has been the biggest problem for the Baltimore Orioles. If you don't develop it, you got to spend to get it.
Yeah.
And neither has been, and not to mention they've had some unfortunate health issues. Look, their stud that I think is a lockdown, absolute number one has gotten hurt, Grayson,
Yeah.
and that hurts your ball club. That's hard to overcome. See, the Yankees can overcome Cole, but the Orioles can't overcome something like a Cole. They just can't. It just
Yeah.
doesn't have the they haven't built their organization around the young starting pitching, which I get because it's a risky proposition. They built it around young core position players that you can count on more often. And then they got to get some kind of consistency in their pitching.
Well, that's just where I get confused with this front office and the way they've gone about it. Because there were a lot of comparisons to Houston. And when it came time, Houston built and developed George Springer, Carlos Correa, Alex Bregman, like all of those names, Altuve, they all came up, and that again felt similar. And then the front office over there in Houston that did have Mike Elias, I know he gets a lot of the Jeff Luhnow was there at the time and really deserves a lot of credit for this. But then they supplemented that, John. They went and got Garrett Cole. They went and got Justin Verlander. They went and added names with the young core. And then now you change over to this Baltimore organization. Mike Elias is there now. You have this new ownership group that comes in celebrating, saying, "We're going to change it all. We're Baltimore fans. This is going to change in a hurry." And it's like, just nothing happened. It's like that move that you just need to make doesn't happen. It's just so confusing to me.
Yeah, they just don't have they haven't shown to have the resources to do
Yeah, I
what
agree.
I'm sure Mike was pushing for it and hoping for it. But we know there's a handful of organizations that just are never going to spend.
Yeah.
And I look, selfishly as the fan, you get mad, but collectively running your business is up to them. And each person's going to spend, unless they're sitting on money they don't care to lose, they're going to spend what they feel like is worthy of their ownership. And that's why there's a unique blend of top heavy teams and teams that basically are functioning as big league teams, but not really.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Yeah.
that's the frustration from the fan base because you've got this historical I mean, it took forever for the Baltimore Orioles to be relevant.
Yeah.
And I think what people mix and they think the model of Houston is how you should do it. I'll say it again. The model of Houston is not the same as the model of the Chicago Cubs. Houston had to change leagues, change rosters, strip it down, build it back up. That's the 7 years. Give us 7 or 5 years, and it isn't like the new age analytical model. Strip it down, stink, build your farm system up, wait
Yeah.
to your window, and then you got 5 to 7 years. No one has shown that to be a prudent, hey fans, stick with us. Baltimore's window of not being relevant was way longer,
Hmm.
and so to your point, you get the fan base excited. You got this core group, they experienced the playoffs, they fell short, but the excitement of the future was right there. They still got time, but it looks tough in the pitching aspect to get out of this little hole they're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, John, I appreciate it. As you mentioned, some teams not functioning as a major league team, but they really aren't. The Colorado Rockies are on pace to go 23 and 139 currently. So I'm going to put them in that group. John, appreciate the time, my friend. Really means a ton. And, hit them straight this week. All right.
Definitely will. Thanks.
All right, just wanted to thank John for joining us here as he does every single week. If you're not subscribed, please do so. John does join every week. So subscribe on Apple, Spotify, wherever. You can also watch every episode on our YouTube channel, Flippin' Bats Pod there. And we're on all social media as well. Really funny stories I always enjoy his stories because often he'll like have one in his mind and then something else will come up, like the story of him missing, like being late for his start. That wasn't in his mind a story he was going to tell. He just remembered it as we started going. And that's the fascinating thing about talking to him is he'll tell one story, it leads to another, it leads to another, and I absolutely love it. So thanks again to John for joining us here, and he will be back next week as well. Let's talk best bets for Thursday because I got two for you today that I'm really excited about. So we're gonna start with the Jarren Duran. We'll start with Jarren Duran. Jarren Duran's been in fuego at the plate for the Boston Red Sox. In his last 10 games, he's hitting 348. In his last 5 games, he's hitting 375. Today, Thursday, depending on when you're listening or watching, Thursday, he faces Jose Barrios. His numbers in his career against Jose Barrios are he's 9 for 18, 9 hits in 18 at bats with 8 extra base hits. 8 of his 9 extra base hits are, or 8 of those 9 hits are extra base hits. So he absolutely rakes against Jose Barrios. He's in fuego at the plate right now. So I'm going to take Jarren Duran 2+ total bases as a best bet for Thursday. Another one, I'm going to take the Pirates money line over the Cubs. Now, hear me out. Paul Skeens is pitching for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and Paul Skeens is 2-0 with a 2.25 ERA in his career against the Cubs. He has 30 strikeouts in 4 starts. I've heard it out of his mouth before. He loves pitching against the Cubs. He gets to do that again now. Pirates aren't the best team in the world, but when it's Skeens Day, they have a good chance of winning a ball game. So I'm going to go Pirates over the Cubs as one best bet. And another one, Jarren Duran of the Boston Red Sox, 2+ total bases. I like those a lot. Join me there, and let's win both of those. Remember, must be 21 or older and present in select states, or 18 and older and present in D.C. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Fun episode today. Always enjoy when Smoltz joins us here. He will again next week as well. We'll also be back in a couple days with another episode to talk all about what's happening around the game of baseball. So again, if you're not subscribed right now, wherever you are listening or watching, please do so. It does really help. Apple, Spotify, our YouTube channel if you're watching, and follow us on all social media as well, at Flippin' Bats Pod everywhere. But love you all. I love this community. Enjoy the weekend of baseball coming up. A lot of good baseball being played and a lot of mediocre baseball being played. A lot of teams either 16-14 or 14-15, right around that like 500 mark. Soon some of those teams are going to start separating themselves, and we might see that start over the weekend. But some good weekend series coming up. Enjoy the baseball coming up, and we'll see you next week as well. Thank you all for listening. Remember, find your bat and flip it. Peace. Flippin' Bats is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Must be 21 and older and present in select states. For Kansas, an affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and older and present in D.C. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.